Hey fellow mortals, welcome back to Golden RPG. Today, we'll talk about one of the broken sorcerer builds combined with this season's new content. Let's buckle up. The Ice Shards Sorcerer is a powerful endgame build in Diablo 4. This build has been tailor-made to use the Barber heart to the best of our ability. The Barber heart is probably the best tool we have right now. These skills transform your sorcerer into an ice-based machine gun, shooting out ice shards at around 1000 rounds per minute. The AoE damage can be a bit lacking, but we have Shatter to take care of that. The build uses a combination of skills and gear to maximize Ice Shards damage and survivability. For this source setup, you have to collect all unique items and legendary aspects below. This allows you to pilot this build at its peak efficiency. Let's take a look at the changes you need to make to implement them. Cooldown reduction and max mana are the most important stats for any sorcerer build. Try to get as high as you can on those two stats. The other can be any kind of defense or lucky hit. Remember to take aspect to buff your Frost Nova skill. Don't worry about the cooldown increase in case this build has a lot of cooldowns. Down to the tunic, +1 rank for glass cannon passive is a must-have. Damage to close enemies and stun enemies are flexible and get more intelligent if you can. Take this aspect to stun and gather the enemies on the gloves. Take as much damage as you can. Focus on Ice Shards rank, crit damage, crit chance, or lucky hit chance. Later on, you'll always be on barrier, which means you'll always get increased damage. This one is very simple. Get all kinds of damage reduction you can get. Take the aspect that increases your survivability, such as increasing your armor when you deal damage. And then for our boots, get movement speed then focus on cooldown reduction and skill rank. If you can get both of them, that's great, but don't try too hard. This aspect will help you multiply the target shooting on the battlefield. For the first weapon, take core skill damage, critical damage, and some intelligence. On the second one, get as much cooldown reduction, mana, and resources generation. Just anything that keeps this machine gun shooting. Both of these aspects increase your ability to deal damage. Then for our ring, again, we have a lot of damage here. The same things on both of them. You will want critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, and critical strike chance. Aspect piercing cold helps you clear out a group of enemies and activate all the buff above. Enemies also have a chance to be stunned when they dare to touch you. And then finally our amulet here. It's really lucky if you get that +3 rank defensive, but in case luck doesn't smile on you, don't worry. Keep the focus on cooldown reduction and mana cost reduction, or any stats that provides intelligence. Let's take a look again before we get to the next chapter. Many stats and status effects generate on gear. Here are some stats you need to focus on. Cooldown reduction, core skill damage, max mana, critical strike chance, critical strike damage, and huge damage boost, so stack them as much as possible. But the most important is the aspect of an item. You must get it right to maximize its building power. Damage reduction in all of its forms, damage reduction and element resistance to all elements as well. Movement speed on boot, you gotta move. The Ice Shards Sorcerer endgame build is a powerful and versatile build that uses a combination of skills and gear to maximize Ice Shards damage and survivability. The build is focused on dealing high single target damage with Ice Shards, and it can be used to clear both solo and group content. Let's take a look at Ice Shards Sorcerer skill tree. Ice Shards is our main skill. It deals very high single target damage and can even keep a single enemy permanently vulnerable. With enhanced Ice Shards and the aspect of piercing cold on the ring and its own enchantment, it's also pretty decent for AoE. Deep Freeze enhances your character and becomes immune for 4 seconds. For the duration, emanate chilling waves that deal cold damage. This freezes enemies longer than normal. Later, you'll get Supreme Deep Freeze used to reset our other cooldowns and sometimes to avoid dangerous attacks. Frost Nova is both a defensive and offensive skill. It keeps us safe by freezing all enemies in place and also dramatically increases our damage output by making them vulnerable. Not to mention that it activates our Ice Shards enchantment, which is our main source of AoE damage. Teleport is your movement skill. Teleport sets you up for Frost Nova, and we use the enhanced teleport skill to help reduce its cooldown a bit. Ice Armor and Flame Shield both give us a huge barrier and a bit of mana regeneration. Flame Shield heals you up to 50% of the missing heal after getting enchantment. Take the Fire Bolt and Frost Bolts, we can put them on enchantment slot. We just have to use everything we have. Last but not least, key passive Avalanche. Your frost skills have up to 10% chance to make your next cast of Ice Shard consume no mana and deal 40% increased damage. Chance is double against vulnerable enemies. Ice Shards Sorcerer gameplay is very straightforward. Walk up or teleport to enemies and cast Frost Nova. Cast Ice Shards at any enemies who are not immediately destroyed by the Ice Shards enchantment. Use Ice Armor as necessary to protect yourself. Save Flame Shield for when you get hit by crowd control or when the situation gets dire. Deep Freeze is only used in 2 situations. When all your skills are on cooldown, you can quickly double tap Deep Freeze to reset them. The second usage is for defense when you see a big hit coming and don't have enough time to get out of the way. We need to level up our glyphs to activate the additional bonus with surrounding nodes. As you know, because glyphs at level 15 increase their radius, we need to prioritize leveling them by completing nightmare dungeons. After that, we prioritize leveling our strongest glyphs to level 21. Besides that, you can use these glyphs for leveling. Always remember to only use this while leveling because some of our endgame glyphs can't be activated until they reach level 15. Don't level these glyphs up because you will replace them later. The first one is Destruction. For every 5 dexterity purchased within range, you get increased critical strike damage. Reaching 25 dexterity on allocated Paragon nodes gains you a buff. Critical strikes increase all damage the enemy takes from you for 10 seconds. For the next one, Control Glyph increases your damage to vulnerable targets for every 5 dexterity purchased within range. You do 10% increased damage to slowed or chilled enemies, or instead, 20% increased damage to stunned or frozen enemies. Flame Feeder Glyphs increase your damage to burning target, and it's even more damage when you reach requirements. Just like the last one, Exploit Glyph increase your damage to vulnerable targets for every 5 dexterity purchased within range. Reaching 25 dexterity on allocated Paragon nodes within its radius unlocks a new passive. When an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. But remember, this passive cannot happen more than once every 20 seconds per enemy. By granting a 25% bonus to all rare nodes within range, Tactician will cover your missing stats. It also increases your damage after casting a defensive skill. This one must have glyphs for every sorcerer. Elementalist will increase non-physical damage and damage reduction modifiers. It even stacks up even more damage when you deal fire, cold, or lightning damage. That's all the glyphs you will need, but remember, the priority defends your glyphs level if you can get them to level 21. Try to reach them in this order: Destruction, Control, Flame Feeder, Exploit, Tactician, Elementalist. As we said before, this Ice Shards Sorcerer build has been tailor-made to use the Barber Heart. Despite the nerf on critical damage and cooldown mod, the newly added Cage Heart of the Barber still makes this build even stronger than the pre-season version. Here are some best in-slot Cage Hearts you should aim for. Cage Heart of the Barber. One-shots everything, and also it deals shadow damage. If you accumulate enough damage to kill the target, it will immediately explode without waiting for the full timer. This makes a higher roll on this heart always better because it deals more damage and has no downside. Cage Heart of Tau Rusher is very good with Heart of the Barber. This one gives us a bunch of damage for free. Focus on getting high damage percentage and ignore the duration. All stacks are refreshed when you deal any kind of elemental damage, so it's trivial to keep it up to 100% all the time. And for the last slot, you can take Cage Heart of Revenge. It provides much needed damage reduction, or Cage Heart of Tempting Fate where you need damage more than defense. While not the best at doing it, the Ice Shards Sorcerer is, in fact, Nightmare Dungeon Tier 100 viable. Here are some things to consider if attempting this push. Avoid these Nightmare Dungeon affixes. Unstoppable monsters for a sorcerer. Unstoppable means unkillable. This build deals about 25 times more damage to enemies that can be crowd controlled. Monster Cold. Vulnerable. Crowd control. Critical resist. Is simply reducing your damage output by a lot. Storm-based Wrath. Lightning Storm. Drifting Shade. These afflictions just add one more thing for you to worry about on top of nearly every mob being able to kill you in a couple of hits. Resource Burn. No mana. No machine gun. The Ice Shards Sorcerer is a robust and powerful build capable of dealing great single target damage and also able to demolish hordes of enemies with Shatter. The long range and high upfront damage of Ice Shards makes this build very smooth and easy to play. This build also benefits a lot from this season's content, specifically the Cage Heart of the Barber. Let's take a look at this clear on Nightmare Dungeon. That's it for today's build. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos. See ya!